Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. Please check out my other videos for information surrounding new card releases and some tips to do with interactions between different cards. In today's video we're looking at some brand new cards that are coming to the Yu-Gi-Oh Rush Duels, or Yu-Gi-Oh 7 series as it's more commonly known. The first card is called Heat Darts. It's a water fish level 3 effect well, it's got no effect to it. It's got 1000 attack and 500 defense, so it's basically a plain monster. It's not particularly powerful, and it's just kind of one of those weaker monsters I don't see anyone actually using. The next card is Thrust Dragon Bunker Strike. It's an Earth Dragon effect level 7 monster with 2300 attack and 1800 defense. The requirement is if this card was normal summon this turn, you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. And the effect is draw cards equal to the number of monsters your opponent controls, then choose cards in your hand equal to the number of cards you drew with this effect, and either return all of them to the top of the deck in any order, or return all of them to the bottom of the deck in any order. So this card is very similar to something like Reload or Magical Mallet, which is in the original dueling series because of that effect. Potentially you could be drawing up to 3 cards, but this is dependent on your opponent, and that's not usually something you want to be doing. You don't usually want to rely on your opponent to do anything. You'd rather rely on your own field. That's kind of the downside of this. You could potentially be swapping maybe 1 or 2 cards, 3 if you're very lucky, or at a very crucial point where you're kind of on the back foot and are currently losing the duel. Other than that, it's a one-off effect. It's when it's summoned, so the fact that it's not continual means I don't see the value in this card. I like the design, I just think the execution of this card was just quite poor, especially since it's kind of like a boss version of a monster. The next card is Esperade of the Smashing Light. It's a dark psychic effect monster. It's a level 7 with 2500 attack and 0 defense. The requirement is if your life points are 1000 or less, and the effect is to choose up to 2 monsters your opponent controls and destroy them. Okay, this is one of a few destruction effects. Some of the other ones that are currently in the game require quite a heavy cost to them. This, I would argue, is quite a heavy cost. And from the point of view is you really have to be losing the duel to be able to actually use this effect. Otherwise, essentially, you've got a 2500 attack body. For this stage of the series, that's not necessarily a bad thing. There aren't that many more powerful monsters out there. Seven Rogues Magician can be a bit more powerful if its effect actually gets to kick in, gets to be used. Blue Eyes White Dragon, which is a legend card, can also do that. And there's a couple of other ones that are a little bit stronger, either through effects or interactions with other cards. The ability to use this effect is decent, but you need to be at a point where you can guarantee winning in that turn. If you're not, and you go through with this, chances are you're not going to survive the next turn, because if your opponent is able to establish a board and you don't have any spell or trap to prevent anything, you are at a significant down point. The next card is Baffle Commander Hernandez. It's a Fire Water level 4 effect monster with 1200 attack and 1000 defense. It doesn't have any requirements, but its effect is to choose one face-up defense position monster. It must be warrior type you control and change it to attack position. I don't understand what the point of this card is. For a level 4, not only is it very weak in its stats, but actually changing a monster from defense to attack position, I don't see the value in it as of yet. If anyone knows the reason why, please comment that down below, because otherwise that just confuses me to no end. The next card is Hydrocannon Big Macaron. I hope I'm saying that right. It's a water fish effect monster. It's a level 7 with 2200 attack and 2100 defense. The requirement is you can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, and the effect is to choose up to 2 face-up fish monsters with 1000 or less attack you control, and this turn they can attack directly. So I think that's okay. You could potentially be doing 2000 points of damage, very useful if your opponent has no life point recovery cards and is below that level. And actually sending one card from your hand to the graveyard to use this effect isn't that restrictive. The other thing is, of course, it's not specified on levels or anything else other than the fact it has to be 1000 attack points or less, and it has to be a fish type, which you're going to be running if that's the theme you're looking at. The ability to actually use this effect continually at once every turn, so long as you've got cards to discard from your hand, means potentially you could win the duel with this effect, and is a lot better than, say, some of the stronger monsters that only have very conditional effects, as was the one that was mentioned just above. The next card is called Medium Octopus. It's a water fish effect monster. It's a level 3 with 1000 attack and 0 defense. So talking about the above card, this is something that can be used as well. The requirement is you can pay 800 life points, and the effect is choose one normal monster in your graveyard, and this card gains attack equal to the chosen monster's level times 100 until the end of this turn, then shuffle the chosen monster into the deck. So firstly, the attack stat on this card isn't great, but neither are most of the monsters in the game. If your opponent has a bunch of weaklings on the field, this could make a difference if you're able to kind of choose something that has a decent level to it, say a Red Eyes Black Dragon or a Blue Eyes White Dragon. That means you're not only being able to recover that card back to the deck, but you're able to boost this to 1700 or 1800 attack points, respectively, which can be enough at the moment at the state of the game to be able to make some kind of impact. Although saying that, paying 800 life points to potentially doing only a couple of hundred life points worth of damage is still not great, and this card won't last very long within any sort of water deck. The next card is Luchabind. It's a normal spell card, and the requirement is if you control 2 or more face-up monsters, they must be of the psychic type. Choose one face-up monster your opponent controls, and change it to face-down defense position. Okay, so this card is a little bit like a normal spell card version of Book of Moon. It is very specific because you do have to have psychic type monsters on your field, and you have to have 2 of them. The benefit of this is a lot of monsters that have high attack don't really have high defense, so you're actually able to get over them relatively easily, and there aren't really any other conditions other than having that those cards on the field. So these could be used multiple times if you want to. And the next card, and the final card, is a trap card. It's called 2 Block. The requirement is when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can send 2 normal monsters, they must be level 2, from your hand to the graveyard. The effect is to choose up to 2 face-up monsters your opponent controls, and change them to face-down defense position. So again, this is like having 2 Book of Moons. The problem is that you're having to send 2 normal monsters, which are level 2, from your hand to the graveyard. The level of flexibility on this card is awful. They have to be normal monsters, they have to be level 2, and you have to have them in your hand. So, you know, you're getting rid of 2 cards potentially you could have used for something else, just hoping to kind of block your opponent's attacks for the turn. I would say the good thing about this card is, you know, if your opponent is trying to go for an OTK and you can see that's the direction they're going in, you know, each player's field can only have up to 3 monsters on it. Stopping 2 of them by flipping them face down means you're essentially negating their attacks, so you're actually able to survive more turns. I like the design of some of these cards, but I do think they're just quite useless and too simplistic for what's needed. What do you guys think? Is there anything in here you particularly like? Of the list, I would say that kind of like fish boss monster looked decent, but everything else was a bit like meh. I couldn't be bothered with it. Whatever you think, leave your comments down below. like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.